Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the June 3, 2014 meeting of the Trust, and I would recognize a motion to that effect.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. The consent docket.
Move approval subject to individual consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items for individual consideration? Seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just draw your attention to a change in our agreement with the Oklahoma City, with the Road 66 Boathouse Foundation to expand activities at Lake Overhulst. We're really excited about that.
Great. Very good. Any other questions or comments? We'll vote. Approved. Next item of business is a concurrence docket.
Move approval subject to individual consideration.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, any items for individual consideration? Seeing none, we'll vote. Approved. We'll move into items for individual consideration. First of all is the fiscal year 2015 Oklahoma City Water Utilities budget. Recognize a motion for approval. It's been moved. Is there a second? Did I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed fiscal year 2015 operating budget is a relatively minor total increase of about $550,000. Some of that is accomplished by decreases in power costs related to a little less pumping along the Atoka pipeline for the next year, given that Lake Draper has recovered. Should weather continue to be dry, we'll continuously evaluate pumping regimes, and typically dry weather brings additional revenue, so we're not anticipating that to be a budget impact. It's usually a budget plus for you. Budget, as usual, includes expenses for travel and training, the SAP support program. You'll notice is about $2.7 million for support services, another $245,000 for licensing, and about $500,000 for bill, print, and mail. It's typical, again, of our outsourced services for the billing system. We will continue professional memberships that assist us with complex technical questions as necessary. And the USGS budget reflects a $35,000 a year increase for monitoring of rivers and streams and lakes, which has become more significant for us in, again, the dry weather cycle that we're in. I'm happy to answer questions.
Are there questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. We'll vote. Approved. Next item is a resolution directing the General Manager and General Counsel to finalize and forward the necessary ordinance amendments to implement the recommended rate alternative to Council for consideration.
Mr. Chairman, we've had a last-minute change in that ordinance. Staff would like to ask you to strike this item today. We found a bust in calculations.
And then you'll fix it and bring it back?
Pardon?
You'll fix it and bring it back?
We will.
Okay.
I'd move to be stricken.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Is there a reason to enter into executive session? Seeing none, is there a motion? Been moved to strike. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved to strike. Are there any items from trustees? General Manager report.
Updating you on lakes, both Lake Atoka and Lake Hefner got about 3.5 feet of water from the recent rains. So we're at about 4.5 feet down at Lake Hefner, 5 feet down at Lake Hefner, about 5 feet down at Lake Atoka. Feeling pretty good going into the summer.
Say it again, Marcia. How far down, Hefner?
About 4.5, 5 feet.
You got some of that trail back in then, didn't it? I was watching it, then
It did just very slowly, just very, real excited about that.
and Atoka is
Atoka is similar, about a little less than 5 feet deep, 4.5 feet deep, but 4.5 feet lost at this point. Canton Lake continues to get good rain, and as predicted, still needs more water in the watershed to produce good runoff. The lake the last 4 rain events, what we see is the lake gets an inch of water added, some of it from runoff, some of it from rain, and that inch virtually immediately goes away. So we assume that we're at some threshold level that is the minimum amount that's being absorbed into the alluvial aquifer that we know exists with that lake. So that's the interesting thing. New connections are going great guns. We're about 25% ahead of last year. Excited about that.
Any other questions for Marcia? Seeing none other citizens to be heard? Seeing none, we are adjourned.